Hi, my name is Maximus Bonetto, and I'm introducing 7 topics I have learned in my human development class. The first topic that I want to introduce is attachment theory. Attachment theory was introduced by John Bowlby in the 1950s. It explains how our bond with our parent, our caregiver, shapes how we make relationships, friendships, etc. So, for example, my dad's a very funny person, so I always like to make jokes when I meet new people and try to be really friendly and comfortable with them and make friends that way. So recently at my Jumpstart program, the first person I made like a little joke and they started laughing and we became good friends throughout the whole program. So that's an example of how attachment theory has affected my life. The next topic that I want to introduce is major depressive disorder. Major depressive disorder is a mental illness that makes the person persistently sad, a feeling of hopelessness, a fatigue, and a loss of interest in their hobbies. Major depressive disorder makes the person persistently sad, lose interest in their favorite personal hobbies, feel fatigued throughout the day, feel hopeless and restless. To be diagnosed with major depressive disorder, these symptoms have to be ongoing for 2 weeks consistently. Personally, I have dealt with major depressive disorder as I have had a stomach condition that affected my life for over a year and I began feeling isolated.
The next topic I want to introduce is persistent depressive disorder. Persistent depressive disorder is a chronic version of depression. So, the symptoms of persistent depressive disorder, just to name a few, is low self esteem, fatigue, and bad moods throughout the day. So, these symptoms have to be ongoing for at least 2 years to be diagnosed with PDD. The symptoms aren't as severe as major depressive disorder, but they last longer than major depressive disorder. Personally, I've had a friend in high school who was diagnosed with PDD, and their symptoms were ongoing for 3 years, and they felt comfortable enough to tell me that taking a shower and eating 3 meals a day felt like a chore. The next topic that I want to introduce is in group and out group biases. This biases explains our tendencies to accept people in our own group, which is called the in group, rather than reject the out group people. For example, I'm a big soccer fan, so my favorite team is Arsenal, and say I had a big group of friends that are Arsenal fans, and we saw a group of Manchester United fans on the street. Um, if they try to be friends with us, we wouldn't want to be friends with them because of the team that they support. The next topic that I want to introduce is implicit bias. Implicit bias explains our attitudes and stereotypes towards a certain group of people without you even being aware of it, so it happens unconsciously. So it's hard to explain exactly an example personally, but what I can think of is when I think of sports, I think of men playing sports rather than women, and without even realizing it. The next topic I want to introduce is the positivity effect. The positivity effect is a tendency to focus more on positive information and experiences, and it usually increases as we age. So that's why I have a picture of an old person right here. So the positivity effect is supposed to help with your emotional wellness and mental well-being. An example is how my dad always talks about the good memories of his childhood rather than the bad ones. Even in tough situations, he talks about how his past childhood experiences help him tackle challenges, and he's always happy talking about his childhood. So to me, that's what the positivity effect is mentioning more of the positive childhood memories rather than the bad ones. Lastly, the last topic I want to cover is Jean Piaget's stages of development. Jean Piaget explained how children go through 4 stages of cognitive development. The first one being sensory motor, which happens around the ages of 0 to 2 years old. This is when the babies learn through senses and motor skills, and this is where object permanence develops. And an example is I see myself as a baby playing peekaboo with my dad, which is sensory motor, like him covering his face and then revealing, and he pops like magic. So the next stage being pre-operational, which happens around the ages of 2 to 7 years old. This is when kids use symbols to represent words, images, and ideas. And as an example is when I was in kindergarten, I had a paper plate and I would tape paper strips to it and swing it like a jellyfish, and I thought that it was a real jellyfish. The third stage is concrete operational, which happens around the ages of 7 to 11 years old. And this is when the children's logic starts to come in. So, for example, if you have a tall, thin glass and a thicker, smaller glass, and you fill them up with the same amount of liquid, one looks higher than the other, but you're able to understand that they both have the same amount of liquid inside of them. The last stage being formal operational, this happens from the ages of 12 and up. This is when your abstract reasoning and hypothetical thinking develops. So for example, as a teenager now, I struggle with like my moral dilemmas and making decisions of right and wrong, which I think is formal operations. Thank you so much to listening to my 7 topics I have learned in my human development class. Have a good day and thank you.